¿Alguna vez te has pensado cómo aprender un idioma extranjero en solo 6 meses? Hola, soy Natalia, profesora de inglés. En este video te voy a contar cómo aprendí español en mi tiempo libre. I'll switch into English. So as you've already understood by the name of the video and by the intro, I'm going to share my experience how I managed to learn Spanish just in half a year. I didn't have a chance to learn Spanish at school, as in my school we had no choice but to learn German. Then during my bachelor studies, I chose to focus on German as my second language. Even though I had an opportunity to choose between German, French and Spanish, for some reason I thought that it would be better to master my German rather than to learn Spanish or French from scratch. Well, now I deeply regret having made that choice. My Spanish learning adventure began when my boyfriend suggested that we participated in the volunteering programs in Spain. Well, honestly, I was afraid, as I had been abroad only once to Georgia, and Spain was a new country, it was a new culture, and it was a totally unknown language. I am not an adventurer and I don't like to take risks, but I thought, well, it would be stupid to lose such a chance to visit Spain. I know what you are going to say. Natalie, it's easy to learn Spanish in Spain, as you are in a language environment. Well, yes and no. Well, I know lots of people who had a chance to learn a foreign language being in a country where this language is spoken, but they prefer to use English instead, or Google Translator. So still you have to set it as a goal and study to achieve something. So back to my story. When we arrived in Favara, it's a small village near Valencia, I realized that it would be quite challenging for me to do anything without Igor's help. I didn't understand what people were saying, what the cashier at the checkout of the store said. At that time, there was only one thought in my mind: Nat, it's high time you learn Spanish. Well, unfortunately, I didn't have any magic tool which could help me do that, so I started from the words on the packaging. Well, it sounds strange, but it's a good way to memorize words. You have a word, an image, and then you pronounce several times the words so that it's stuck in your memory. Besides, I was constantly asking Igor to say what people said and try to repeat the phrases and sentences. So I was just like a parrot repeating the same over and over again. In a week I could read and say simple phrases like Buenos días, buenas noches, gracias, una bolsa por favor, pagaré con tarjeta, un sándwich y un café con leche. Then the words and phrases in Spanish stuck to me like bees to honey. I guess it's a natural process when you start learning a language, in a language environment. You're surrounded by this language, people talking in the streets, posters, signs, advertisements, and so on. You soak the language just like a sponge absorbs spilled water. The same happens when babies learn their native language. When children are exposed to a language and surrounded by native speakers, they have opportunities to listen, practice, and interact in that language. Well, as I'm a linguist, I'd like to include here some linguistic info connected with learning languages. As you might know, both English and Spanish have roots in Latin due to their historical connection to the Roman Empire. As these languages have common Latin heritage, there are significant similarities in vocabulary and grammar structures. Spanish has evolved directly from Latin, and English has borrowed many words from Latin via French. This linguistic connection helps English speakers or people who know English to grasp Spanish vocabulary and grammar quite fast. For example, the words like fabulous, in Spanish it will be fabuloso, horrible, horrible, impact, impacto, hospital, hospital, importance, importancia. Even some idiomatic expressions are similar. For example, there is an idiom to throw in the towel, which means to give up, and in Spanish it will be like tirar la toalla. Back to the story. In 2 weeks we had to leave as it was the end of the first volunteering program. By that time I had learned some words and phrases and could grasp at least the main idea of the conversation. If I heard the words like escuela, universidad, then Igor was speaking about his education. If there were some words like el tren, el coche, el avión, then he was sharing the information about how we got to that town or city. After spending 2 weeks in the avocado land, we went to Llagostera. It's a small town between Girona and Barcelona, where we spent 3 more weeks. As we got acquainted with new people, Igor talked with them about himself, his life, education, and, well, certainly about me. So the same sentences were constantly repeated, and I started to understand what they were speaking about. Later, I decided to try to say the same but on my own without any help from Igor's side, and here the parrot methods worked out. Este método funcionó. So why am I telling this? The main things here are: so number 1, if you have an opportunity to go somewhere, whether it's a volunteering program or exchange one, don't miss your chance and use it. Number 2, when you're learning a foreign language, you should be surrounded by it. Read stories in that language, listen to songs, watch YouTube, and so on. The more newly learned words you meet in songs, books, movies, the stronger they stuck in your memory. Number 3, repetition and revision is your key to success. The more times you repeat new words, the better you learn them. And if you revise these words, they will stay in your long-term memory. When our volunteering finished, I decided to continue learning Spanish on my own. My main problem was that I knew lots of Spanish words, but when I wanted to say something, I stumbled over words. In Spain, I always felt as if I were a dog. I understood what people were saying, but when it came to answering, I couldn't say what I wanted. This phenomenon is known as receptive productive language gap. It means that your receptive skills are more developed than your productive skills. It's a common stage in learning language. We can cope with it by focusing on speaking practice, so that we could bridge the gap between comprehension and expression. I know that it's a common problem not among those who start learning a foreign language, so I chose a textbook for elementary learners and started from the basics. I allocated most of my time to practicing speaking skills and grammar. As I studied Spanish twice a week, the first half of my lesson I tried to devote to grammar exercises. For example, I learned the rules, then I did several exercises to consolidate the learned material. The second half of the lesson I spent doing speaking tasks, but the problem was that I didn't have anyone to practice it with. My friends didn't know Spanish, and Igor didn't have time to teach me Spanish. But I found a way out of that situation and recommend these methods to you. At the very beginning, I found various photos related to the topic which I was learning and described them. En esta foto, la mujer está mirando las pinturas. Probablemente se encuentra en una galería de arte o en Museo Nacional. El cuadro a la izquierda es un paisaje, o mejor dicho, una naturaleza muerta. If you're just starting your language journey, it's an efficient way to practice the learned words and grammar. The next method, which I continue using now, is talking to myself out loud. I describe my daily activities or read text and retell them. A good idea is to record yourself, then listen to the recording and assess your pronunciation, intonation, pay attention to the amount of pauses you make. Ahora quiero preparar té, y para eso es necesario poner el agua al hervidor. Después ponemos el hervidor. Esperamos 2 minutos. Y vertemos el agua a la taza. Listo! This allows you to identify areas for improvement. The third method, which I used and actually continue employing, is shadowing. I choose a video in Spanish and try to imitate speakers' pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm. Usually I turn on subtitles so that I could see what they are saying and repeat what I hear out loud, focusing on imitating speech patterns. Hola, mi amor, me extrañaste. The method improves not only pronunciation but also fluency and helps you become more comfortable speaking the language and increases your speaking confidence. When I was not in a mood for studying new phrases or revising grammar, I spent my time listening to Spanish songs or watching videos in Spanish. Now I still use that to practice Spanish in my free time. Usually I turn on songs and look at the lyrics, identifying new words and phrases. After listening to a song several times, I try to sing along with the song. As songs often have catchy melodies and repetitive choruses, it makes it easier to memorize words without learning them on purpose. It's a fun, easy, and at the same time effective way to study when you're not motivated at all. When I started learning Spanish, it was my final year of my bachelor's studying. I had to write my thesis, participate in various conferences, and so on. Pretty tough period, I must say. Sometimes it was quite challenging to find the drive to learn Spanish after spending the whole day studying various subjects at university. When I was lacking motivation in learning Spanish, I found that YouTube videos in Spanish came in handy to learn something new and revive my interest. If you're learning Spanish or want to learn it, I highly recommend the channel which is called Español con Juan. Juan is a teacher and he creates videos in Spanish. He usually teaches Spanish through telling stories. He often repeats phrases and sentences and paraphrases a lot so that even a beginner could understand what he is saying. It's an excellent channel which helped me learn grammar and vocabulary in context. If you're an upper intermediate student, I guess the channel Spanish with Vicente will be of great help. I found this channel when I wanted to take Delhi exam. And remember, learning languages requires discipline, practice, and persistence, so don't give up, you can do everything. If you found this video useful, subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video. Bye!